They told me I was crazy until money started chasing me. What if everything you believed about money was wrong? Not slightly off, not missing a few pieces. I mean completely upside down. What if the endless hours you put in, the strategies you stacked, the sleepless nights and the hustle culture grind were never the real cause of wealth, but the very thing keeping it away? That was my life for years. I was the kind of person who lived by the rules. I tracked every penny, budgeted every hour. My to-do list had sub-lists and those had color-coded labels. I was told, like most of us are, that success was a matter of discipline. Get up early, work harder, push past exhaustion. I was praised for my drive, respected for my work ethic. But I was tired. Not just physically, soul tired. I was building someone else's dream while telling myself the scraps I received were a sign of progress. I was checking boxes and climbing a ladder I didn't even remember choosing. And no matter how tightly I held on to the plan, money always slipped through the cracks. Then something happened that I couldn't ignore. One Thursday afternoon, I found myself sitting in the back of a cafe, rain sliding down the windows. My laptop opened to a spreadsheet that refused to make sense. Bills, invoices, projections. None of it added up. I was doing everything right. So why did it feel so wrong? That's when she walked in. No flash, no drama, just a quiet presence that lit up the room without trying. She ordered tea, took a seat at the table next to mine, and smiled at me like she already knew me. We made small talk. I don't even remember how the topic turned to money, but when I joked that I must have been cursed at birth, she leaned in and said 7 words I'll never forget. Money doesn't chase effort, it follows safety. At first I laughed. It sounded poetic, sure. But useful? I was drowning in deadlines. I didn't need riddles. I needed answers. She didn't try to explain further. She simply said, "You're not broken. You're just misaligned," then handed me a card and walked away. On the card were 4 words. "You are the magnet." That night I couldn't sleep. Something about her words pulsed beneath my skin like a distant drumbeat. I kept hearing her voice in my head. Money follows safety. What did that even mean? Over the next few days, I couldn't let it go. I went down a rabbit hole I never expected, not into get-rich-quick schemes or manifestation fluff, but into something deeper, something ancient, something that bypassed logic and went straight into the realm of energy. And for the first time, I asked myself a question that changed everything. What if money wasn't something I had to chase, but something I could allow? It was a radical idea, absurd even. I had spent years trying to earn my worth, and now here I was, wondering if the very idea of worthiness was a trap. So I experimented. I stopped micromanaging my schedule and started tracking my state. Not my productivity, my energy. I paid attention to how I felt before I checked my bank account, how my body reacted when I received an unexpected bill, how my chest tightened when someone asked my rates. And I realized something shocking. I wasn't afraid of being broke. I was afraid of being seen as greedy. I wasn't bad with money. I was scared of having more than others. I didn't reject abundance. I rejected what I thought it would make me. Somewhere along the line, I had absorbed this belief that having wealth meant becoming someone cold, selfish, or disconnected. So every time it tried to come close, I unconsciously pushed it away. I wasn't attracting lack. I was defending myself from wealth. That hit me hard, because suddenly all the missed opportunities, the sabotage deals, the times I said it's fine when it really wasn't, they weren't failures. They were patterns. Patterns designed to keep me aligned with an identity that felt safe. The identity of someone who tries, who works hard, who earns just enough to prove they're valuable, but never enough to break free. So I asked the question again, what if money follows safety? Then I flipped it. What if I became a safe place for money, not a battlefield, not a guilt chamber, not a proving ground, a safe place, a space where money could land, be respected, be used well, not feared, worshipped, or resented. That idea changed my life, because once I saw money as energy, just energy, I stopped treating it like a god or a villain. I started relating to it like a current, a signal, a mirror, and just like that, things began to shift. Not dramatically at first, but clearly. I got a call from an old client I hadn't heard from in over a year. They wanted to rehire me at triple my previous rate. A friend I hadn't spoken to in months sent me a referral that turned into my biggest project yet. I even received a refund check from an account I didn't remember closing. And that's when I knew I didn't do more. I aligned more. The world hadn't changed. I had. I didn't visualize stacks of cash or chant affirmations into a mirror. I just started feeling safe to receive. And that safety, that shift in my energy, became a frequency. One that money could actually hear. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Money isn't logical. It's vibrational. It doesn't respond to your resume. It responds to your resonance. That's why some people seem to get lucky over and over while others grind for years with nothing to show for it. That's why two people can sell the same product with the same pitch to the same audience. And one will thrive while the other starves. It's not the product. It's the person's frequency behind it. And frequency is shaped by safety. So here's what I did next. And this is the part that flipped everything on its head. I stopped trying to feel worthy of money. I started making money feel welcome with me. And that shift, subtle, soft, profound, changed my entire reality. I began to notice moments of synchronicity, not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet alignments that felt too precise to be random. I'd think about a solution, and it would show up in a podcast. I'd journal about needing support, and someone would offer help within hours. These weren't coincidences. They were confirmations, signs that my frequency was shifting, and the world was responding in kind. I realized then that wealth doesn't arrive like a lottery ticket. It reveals itself when we stop resisting it, when we let go of the guilt, the fear, the identity that says, I have to struggle for every drop. Because real wealth, it flows, and it flows toward clarity, toward calm, toward congruence. I started redefining what wealth meant to me, not more zeros in the bank, but more peace in my body. Not just material abundance, but the freedom to create without fear, to rest without guilt, to receive without explanation. And that required one thing above all else: presence. I had spent years trying to get ahead, living in the future, always planning, always proving. But I had never really been here. And it turns out, here is where the magic happens. Because this moment, this breath, is the only place frequency can live. It can't exist in your memories. It can't exist in your fantasies. It lives in the now. So I slowed down. I started each day not with a to-do list, but with a question. What frequency am I choosing today? Not what will I do, but what will I be? That's when I discovered the most powerful truth I've ever learned. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. If I embodied peace, peace showed up. If I embodied openness, opportunities came. If I embodied abundance, truly deeply, then money flowed. Not because I earned it, but because I became aligned with it. And yes, this flies in the face of everything we're taught. The world says you have to climb, compete, claw your way to the top. But that's the old game, a game designed to keep you distracted, exhausted, and energetically bankrupt. The new game, it's different. The new game is about remembering that you are the signal, not a seeker, not a beggar, not someone waiting for permission. You are the one the universe responds to, and your energy is the invitation. So I started treating myself like the magnet I am. I stopped saying I can't afford that and started asking, what version of me can? I stopped using language that locked me into lack and began speaking as someone who already had. Not as a lie, but as an energetic rehearsal. And with each day, I became more familiar with the feeling of wealth. Not the fantasy of it, the frequency of it. And that's what most people miss. They try to think wealth into existence without ever feeling what it's like to live in overflow. You can't trick the universe. You can't fake resonance, but you can shift it. You can let go of the story that says money is hard, that desire is dangerous, that you have to prove yourself to be worthy of receiving. You can release the tension in your body that says not yet, and replace it with a softness that says, I'm ready. You can begin right now, to feel what it would be like if the pressure dropped, if the struggle ended, if the energy you carry became your most powerful currency. Because it already is. The truth is, you were never meant to hustle your way to freedom. You were meant to become the embodiment of it. And from that place, everything flows. Not because you're forcing it, but because you finally stop resisting it. This is not magic. This is not a shortcut. This is not delusion. This is alignment. And once I understood that, the chase ended. Because I wasn't looking for wealth anymore. Wealth was looking for me, and now it had finally found a place to land. Something subtle yet powerful shifted inside me. And once it did, there was no going back. The old version of me, the one who lived in constant proving, who measured worth by output, who thought money came only through sweat and sacrifice, that version began to dissolve. Not because I hated it, but because it simply didn't feel true anymore. The truth I found was quieter, simpler, and far more potent. It said, I don't need to be louder, faster, or smarter to be abundant. I just need to be more me, fully, freely, unapologetically. And that's what this journey became, a homecoming, not toward riches, but toward resonance, toward remembering that my energy speaks louder than my words, and that money isn't a reward. It's a mirror. It reflects how open I am, how safe I feel, how deeply I trust. And with that trust came ease. Not laziness, not inaction, ease. I still worked. I still created. But the energy was different. No longer chasing, no longer grasping, just expressing, just allowing. That's the irony. When I finally stopped trying so hard to attract money, it came with less resistance than ever before. I let go of the constant pressure to optimize every hour, and I found myself working less, but earning more. I stopped accepting clients that drained me out of fear of scarcity, and suddenly, ideal clients started appearing. I let go of the guilt around charging what I was worth, and discovered that people respected me more, not less. It was like stepping into an entirely different dimension, one where things didn't take force to move, because I had become the force. And you can too. This isn't reserved for the lucky or the chosen. You don't need credentials or connections or another self-help course. You just need to remember what most people forget. The universe doesn't pay you for trying. It reflects your state of being. It mirrors your vibration, and your vibration is not something you hustle into place. It's something you embody. So ask yourself, what energy are you holding right now? Is it clenched, desperate, doubtful? Or is it open, soft, trusting? Because your energy tells a story long before your words ever do. And that story, whether it's rooted in scarcity or insufficiency, is what the world responds to. Once I made peace with that, things clicked into place. Not perfectly, not without wobble, but with increasing clarity. I began seeing life differently. Every delay became a realignment. Every problem became a pointer. Every setback became a recalibration. And most importantly, I stopped blaming money for my pain. Because money isn't cruel. It's neutral. It's not testing you. It's not rewarding your worthiness. It's simply responding to your signal. And if your signal says, I'm not safe with more, then more will always feel just out of reach. But when your signal says, I am ready, I am safe, I allow, then more has no choice but to arrive. It doesn't come because you begged. It comes because you became the frequency it understands. And the beautiful thing is, once you've felt this alignment, you can't unfeel it. It changes how you walk into a room, how you send an email, how you ask for what you need, how you see yourself when you look in the mirror. This isn't about ego, it's about essence. It's about remembering that you don't have to twist yourself into someone else's blueprint for success. You already carry the blueprint within you. You just have to stop blocking the signal. The world doesn't need another burnout overachiever. It needs more people who are calm in their power, certain in their worth, and unshakable in their energy. That's what real wealth is. It's not in your account, it's in your field. It's not what you earn, it's what you allow. It's not about having more, it's about being more, without the noise, without the fight. So if no one's told you this yet, you don't need permission to be prosperous. You don't need to explain why you want more. You don't need to prove you're enough. You already are. You always were. Now all that's left is to remember that and to hold that signal, not just when it's easy, but when it feels hardest, because that's when the field responds. That's when the shift becomes permanent. That's when reality bends to meet you. Not because you chased it down, but because you finally became still enough to receive it. And from that stillness, you begin to live a different kind of life. One where money doesn't rule you nor evade you, but dances with you effortlessly, rhythmically, as if it's always known the steps. Because deep down, it has. From that day forward, I started living by a different truth, one I had never heard growing up, one that no school had ever taught, and no financial planner had ever mentioned. That truth was this: wealth is not a destination, it's a frequency. And every day, I get to decide whether or not I tune into it. Not with willpower, not with strategy, with choice, with presence, with the awareness that my internal state is not just a reaction to the world, it's the blueprint from which the world around me is built. You see, I used to believe I had to earn everything. Every moment of peace, every ounce of rest, every dollar in the bank. I thought that rest had to be deserved, that ease had to be paid for with effort, that wealth was the prize for sacrifice. But I've learned something else now. Ease isn't the reward, it's the requirement. Peace isn't what you get after you make it. It's what you need in order to receive. And money doesn't arrive to validate your worth. It arrives when your worth is no longer up for debate. Because the version of you who feels safe, grounded, magnetic, that version doesn't wait for permission. That version doesn't shrink to fit into rooms too small for their truth. That version doesn't barter energy for approval. And that version is you, right now, under the noise, beneath the patterns, beyond the fear. That version has always been there, waiting to be remembered. Not created, remembered. Because this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about peeling away everything you were told you had to be in order to receive. You don't have to fake confidence. You don't have to manifest harder. You don't have to chant affirmations until your voice goes hoarse. You just have to decide, what do I believe I'm allowed to have? What do I believe I'm safe to hold? What kind of life do I trust myself to lead? And then you hold that frequency, moment by moment, breath by breath, not perfectly, not without wobble, but with intention, with integrity, with love. Because that's what the so-called forbidden technique really is. It's not a secret spell. It's not a guarded formula. It's a way of being. It's the shift from force to flow, from lack to sufficiency, from survival to resonance. It's the deep, embodied knowing that says, I am no longer available for scarcity. I am no longer pretending I'm not ready. I am no longer hiding from what's mine. You hold that signal, not because you're trying to get something, but because it feels true. You hold that signal, not for the outcome, but for the alignment. And when you do, the world adjusts. Because reality doesn't follow effort, it follows energy. And when your energy is clear, money listens. When your energy is steady, wealth arrives. When your energy is sovereign, abundance flows. Not as a favor, as a reflection. So now when I look at my life, I don't measure success by numbers on a screen. I measure it by how free I feel when I wake up, by how open I am to joy, by how little I need to prove, by how naturally I receive. And here's what I want you to know. You don't have to wait 10 years to feel this. You don't have to hit rock bottom to wake up. You don't have to struggle your way into worthiness. You just have to choose. Choose to become the version of yourself that life responds to effortlessly. Choose to become a space where money feels safe to land. Choose to become magnetic, not because you want more, but because you are more. Not someday, not later. Now, because when you hold the frequency of truth, when you move through the world from alignment, when you speak, walk, and live as the embodiment of abundance, money has no choice but to come find you. And when it does, you'll smile. Not because you got lucky, but because deep down, a part of you always knew. You were the magnet all along. Have you ever felt this kind of shift? Has there been a moment when you stopped chasing and started attracting? If this story stirred something in you, if you're ready to step into a new way of being, share your experience in the comments below. Let others see your light. And if this resonated, consider subscribing for more stories that awaken what you've always carried inside. Because this isn't the end, it's the beginning, and your frequency is just getting started.